Hi all, I'm Ajit Thomas, a faculty at Xylem Languages. And today we're going to look at the definite article, the. And you have a definite article, the, as well as you have two indefinite articles, a and an. Now we're going to look at when to use the. 8 different occasions, or there are more, but we can broadly classify them into 8. So the first instance when you use the, you use the when you're referring to something specific. To be exact, when the speaker and the listener know what is being referred to, you have to use the. For example, I saw the movie you recommended. So in this case, the recommendation was made by one person and the other person watched the movie and he's saying, I've seen the movie. So they both know which movie he is referring to. So because of this reason, you have to use the definite article, the, as both the listener and the speaker know what is being talked about. She opened the door. Both the listener and the reader, and the speaker know which door is being referred to. So you have to use the definite article. Now let's see another instance in which you have to use the article the. So when you're talking about something and you've already mentioned it once and you're going to talk about it a second time, you have to use the definite article. When you introduce it the first time, you would use the indefinite article a or an, and then when you introduce it the second time, or when you talk about it the second time, you would use the definite article. For example, I saw a dog. The dog was barking. So the first time you use the indefinite article and the second time the definite article. Again, another example is I saw a car. The car was elegant. The car looked elegant. So the first time when you refer to an object, when you're introducing an object, you use the indefinite article, and when you're talking about it the second time, you have to use the definite article, which is the. Let's move on to the third use of the definite article. You use the definite article to refer to unique concepts or objects, or things that are universally known. For example, the internet, the universe, the earth, the sun, the moon. In such cases, when everybody knows what you're talking about, you can again use the definite article. And we move on to the next use, the superlatives and the ordinals. So when you compare something, there are 3 degrees of comparison: the positive, the comparative, and the superlative. For example, good, better, best. Good is the positive degree, better is the comparative degree, and best is the superlative degree. Or to make it simpler, tall, taller, and tallest. And tallest is the superlative degree. And when you use the superlative degree, it's essential that you include the definite article. Only in the case of the superlative degree. Don't use the definite article in front of the comparative degree or the positive degree. Okay. And ordinals. Now what are ordinals? You have ordinals refer to numbers, but not just regular numbers. Regular numbers are called cardinal numbers, whereas ordinal numbers show the position, for example, first, second, third, etc. So you would always have to say the first position. So when you're using an ordinal number, you have to use the definite article before it. That is another instance in which you use the definite article. Okay, now another 5 or I think it's 6 situations in which you have to use the definite article are when you're talking about specific geographical locations. One example is when you're talking about rivers, for example, the Nile, or the Bharatapuzha, or the Periyar. Any river that you want to talk about, include the definite article before it. The second geographical entity that you should keep in mind is when you're referring to oceans or seas. The Pacific Ocean, or the Arabian Sea, or the Indian Ocean. These are all situations in which you have to use the definite article. Another example are the mountain ranges, for example, the Himalayas or the Urals. So when you're talking about mountain ranges, do include the definite article. And another geographical entity that requires you to include the definite article are deserts. Remember, the pronunciation is deserts and not deserts. Deserts are what you eat. Deserts, when you're talking about deserts, do include the definite article. For example, the Sahara Desert, or the Thar Desert, or the Atacama Desert, which is in South America, Peru to be exact. Also, when you're talking about a group of islands, you'd have to include the definite article. A group of islands can also be referred to as an archipelago, and when you're talking about an archipelago or a group of islands, do include the definite article. For example, the Caribbean islands, which is otherwise known as the West Indies. Anyone who follows cricket would have heard of the West Indies Islands. Or the Maldives. Maldives are islands that are lying close to India. Or the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And finally, when you refer to countries, or when you're talking about countries with plural names or descriptors, you have to use the definite article. For example, the Netherlands. So here it's more than one land, so that's why you have to include the definite article. Or the United States of America. So here you're talking about states that have been unified under the name America. So it's more than one state. So do include the definite article. Or another example is the United Kingdom. So it includes kingdoms such as Wales and part of Ireland. So it is called as the United Kingdom, and since it refers to more than one region, you have to include the definite article. Let's move on now. Okay, now think of a dance form, say Bharatanatyam. When you're talking about Bharatanatyam, you have to include the definite article. Or for example, another popular Western dance form or an American dance form is tango. But when you talk about tango, you have to include the definite article. The tango, or the salsa, or the rumba. So do include the definite article when you're talking about dance forms. And also when it comes to musical instruments such as the guitar or the piano or the flute, to include the definite article before those of. And the next instance. So another instance where you use the definite article is when you're talking about institutions or services. For example, the bank. You have to include the definite article before the word bank. Or the courts, referring to the court of law, or the parliament. And yeah, of course, with the police station as well, you have to include the definite article. And the example is, I have to go to the police station. Or if it's a service too, with certain services too, you have to include the definite article. For example, she called the police. So there, police doesn't refer to the institution, it's the police service, the service that the police render. Okay, finally, when you have to use definite article with adjectives that refer to a group. For example, the rich, which is supposed to mean the rich people, or the poor. Again, it means poor people. So it's a group as a whole, and poor is an adjective. It indicates the quality of the people, that they are poor. So in such cases too, you have to use the definite article. Again, the elderly, people who are old. Now you're referring to a group and you're using elderly, the adjective, to indicate what sort of a group it is. And in such cases too, you have to use the definite article. Let's quickly run through them. It's quite a lot of them, quite a lot of rules, that instances that you have to use the definite article. The best way actually is to use them, or observe when it is used in actual proper usage of language, and absorb it. You can learn the rules. In addition, observe how it is used in, say, a written text, or someone who's speaking proper English, and try to absorb that in. That's another effective way of learning how to use the definite article, because there are so many specific instances that you have to recollect, and before you have to recollect in order to use the definite article. Instead, if you learn it from use by observing people, it works as well, or it sometimes works even better. Okay, let's go through the uses once again. So when one instance is when both the speaker and the listener know what the person is referring to. That is, for example, I saw the movie you recommended, or she opened the door. Now, another instance in which you use the definite article instead of the indefinite article is when you've already introduced the object that you're going to talk about using an indefinite article. And when you refer to that object the second time, you are supposed to use the definite article. For example, I saw a dog. The dog was barking loudly. And now the third use is when you're talking about unique objects such as the earth, the Jupiter, or the moon, etc., or the internet, or the social media. Now, another instance is when you're using the superlative degree, that is the 3 degrees of comparison: good, better, and best. So when it's best, do include the definite article. And when you're using numbers that show position, that is first, second, third, etc., to include the definite article. And then there is this long list. Use definite article with rivers, oceans, mountains, deserts, a group of islands, and countries with plural names such as United Kingdom. Let me go through that list again. Rivers, mountains, oceans, deserts, group of islands. Just think of them as geographical entities or geographical geographical entities. I can't think of another word to describe them. So rivers, oceans or seas, mountain ranges, deserts, group of islands, and then countries that have plural names or descriptors such as the United Kingdom or the Netherlands. When next instance in which you have to use the definite article is when you're talking about a particular dance form such as the rumba or the salsa. Do include the definite article. Also, when you're talking about a musical instrument, do include the definite article. And when you're referring to certain institutions or services such as the police or the judiciary or the parliament, do include the definite article. And service, I call the police here. It's not the institution you are referring to, it's the service. So there too, do include the definite article. And finally, with adjectives that refer to a group. So if you are using an adjective in order to refer to a group, such as the poor, or such as the educated, or such as the intelligentsia, which means the ones that are educated or the intelligent class, you have to include the definite article. So I know it's a cupful, there's a lot to learn, but yeah, go through them, use them in your everyday practice, and you'll slowly get the hang of it. And do click on the link below in the subscription box, and you can join our course, and you can also refer to our YouTube channel, to which you can join for further such videos. And yeah, we do have online as well as offline classes. You can join them in case you need further help with anything regarding English, whether be it spoken or written. And with that, I come to the end of the session. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.